Hello. In this video, we are going to open and use Illustrator on our iMacs, and we're going to create a line design. Now, I'm not going to create the entire design, but I'm going to show you how to get started. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is you've logged into your computer. This is the desktop. Yours may look different than mine, and that's okay, whatever your background picture is. But this physical space here is the desktop, and you can see I've saved some folders and files to the desktop. And you may do the same as well, but you have to always make sure that you turn in your work. You should have Chrome on your dock already. If you don't, I'm going to show you how to add it, but we also need to add Illustrator. So you've clicked on your desktop, and you're going to go to the word Go and then Applications. And under Applications, like I said, if you do not already have Chrome, you need to make sure that you click Chrome and you drag it and drop it on the dock. You'll wait for two other applications to split open to do so. For me, it won't work because I've already got it on there. And then now we have to also add Illustrator. So I want you to find the AI folder. Yours might look slightly different than mine depending on which version is currently installed. So you're going to go to the AI folder. It's Adobe Illustrator CC, and this is the number that may be different based on which update you have. I'm going to double click the folder. Within the folder, I've got all of these options here. These are all parts of Illustrator. But to put on your dock down here, which is this area where you put most frequently used pieces of software, we just need this icon right here. This is the actual software. So I'm going to click and drag, and I'm going to add it down here to my dock, and I'm going to let it go. And then you can see that it's there. Do not click and drag and release it on your desktop. If you do, you'll need to delete it because then it's not a workable piece of software from your desktop. It needs to be placed onto the dock to be used. And if you tried to do the folder, it would not work. Notice that it will not, any of the two pieces of software will not split open for this because it's not permissible. You cannot put a folder on the dock. So you open the folder, you take the icon, and then you add it to the dock like I have just done. Now you can close out of your applications folder. So that was Go, Applications, and this is everything that is currently installed on your computer, and mine is different than what you've got. Okay, so now you're going to go down here, you're going to launch Illustrator. So I just clicked on it once, and it's going to take a minute to open, but usually it's fairly quick. Again, what you just saw is going to look different based on the version that you have. Mine this is documents that I've been recently working on, and so also that's going to look different than what you may see when you first open yours. What you want to do is you want to find the Create New button. If you don't see the Create New button, you can also hit Command on your keyboard, and Command is on either side of the space bar, so Command and N for New. Okay, so it's Create New or Command N for New. Now, when mine comes up, you can see I've recently created an 8.5 by 11 document, which is called a letter document, which is just like a sheet of paper that a teacher might hand you for Cornell notes, or a sheet of paper in your notebook, or a sheet of paper you've done a worksheet or a quiz on. That's a standard size, 8.5 by 11. And standard size is usually vertical, but it could also be horizontal, and that's what this is, 11 by 8.5. That can be changed here. So here I've got my new document, 8.5 by 11 vertical, or if I switch it here, it's 11 by 8.5. I want you to create a document that is vertical. So that's up and down, the orientation is vertical, and this is the one that you should choose. It needs to be in inches. This is crucial. If you are on picas or points or pixels, that is going to mess up your document greatly, and you need to be on inches. Back up here where it says Untitled. Before we go any further, put your last name, use a capital letter, comma, space, your first name, use a capital letter, and then that's it. We don't need to type anything else. We're going to save this as a PDF, and so the file format will show up at the end of the title later on when we save it, okay? 8.5 by 11 inches vertical, one artboard, and do not worry about the margins at this point, but we can talk more about those at a later date. Now we're going to come down here and we're going to hit create. And what's going to happen is we're going to get a white document. It's going to show up. This is basically this sheet of paper that we just spoke about. And so we're seeing the sheet of paper. Now notice that I could accidentally hit my mouse and it acts as a trackpad, and I've moved it. Now I can't see my piece of paper. The way that you get that back or that you center it on the page is Command 0. Command on either side of your space bar and the letter, or excuse me, the number 0. Now, if I wanted to zoom in really far, I'm going to put a shape on here really quick so that you can see what I'm talking about. But let's say we wanted to zoom in like really, really, really far. Okay, so we're so zoomed in we can't even see the sheet of paper. And I did that by using Command plus. Okay, so now I want to zoom out. So the opposite would be true. Command minus, 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 minus. And that brings me back out. And I can go out really far. So this here is my one piece of paper. This is the entire space. The dark gray is the entire workable space for Illustrator. So you could have many, many documents in one document on Illustrator, and they could all be in this gray space. Anything that exceeds the dark gray space, this is a non-workable space in Illustrator. So here's my artboard, my sheet of paper, which is also called an artboard in Illustrator, and here's the workable space that Illustrator can use. So I'm going to now go back to full screen. Again, that is Command 0. And that's what you do. So I'm going to delete this object, and then we're going to learn about some tools that are relevant to you creating a line design. Okay, so the first tool that we're going to learn about is right here. And notice that when you scroll over these tools, if you hover for just a second, it will tell you what it's called. Okay, also notice these little tiny triangles down here inside of each one. That means if you click and hold, there are additional tools underneath that tool. So this is the line segment tool, but if I click and hold, underneath here is the arc tool, the spiral, the rectangular grid, and the polar grid. Now, if you wanted to separate this toolbar just temporarily to work with it, I'm still clicking and holding, and I come over here to this triangle and then this little arrow, and it makes this tool panel floating separate, okay? Now, that's not necessarily important for right now, but we can leave it there. We could use that here in a minute. But notice the triangle. So if there's a triangle, that means a click and hold would have multiple tools underneath there. Your toolbar might be set up slightly different than my toolbar, because that also is affected by up here, by what version of Adobe Illustrator CC you are using. Okay, so you need to be aware of that as well. The one tool that we're really going to start off with here is line segment. Okay, so I want you to click on line segment, and notice that I have a fill color and a stroke color. Well, I don't want that. Okay, I want my line segment to be black for now, and I want my fill color, I'm going to pull that forward. Notice I flipped them. Started out like this, I flipped them. Okay, so you can do that. You can also click over here. But my fill color is forward, is in front, and I want to turn it off by hitting no. And then in my stroke color, we're going to stick with black for right now. Okay, so coming over to your document, I am clicking my mouse and I am dragging, and I get a perfectly straight line. However long I let go of the mouse, that will determine the length of the line. Okay, so I've got a lot of lines here. Now, let's say I want to go back and do something different with these lines. I'm going to hit Command Z to undo what I did. Okay, Command Z. So back to line segment. Let's say I want a perfectly straight horizontal line. I'm going to click. I'm holding down the Shift key, and notice no matter where I go, it's going to be straight. Now, if I pull too much, it goes at a 45-degree angle straight. Or if I pull more, it goes vertically straight. But if I go back, then I go back to horizontal. Now I can equally go the other direction as well. It's going to go in 45-degree increments. So here is horizontal, then 45 degrees, 90 degrees, and so on all the way around. Okay? If I let go, there's my line. Let's zoom in on this for a minute. That's Command ++. I'm going to take you to the stroke panel. which is right up here. I can increase the thickness of that stroke right here by doing this. These are points, by selecting it by points. I can click on the word stroke and I can further edit my stroke in here. So here's that up and down for the weight. Here's the cap. Right now it's got a flat squared off edge to it. It could also be round. Okay, or we can go back and you can see the stroke travels around that end point versus where it just ends at the end point. Okay, I like round. That's kind of a fun one to do. You can, this is not really applicable right now because I don't have a shape, but if I had a corner, I could say, hey, I want the corners to be round, or I want them to be beveled, or I want them to be mitered, or what is the same really as squared off. Okay. Now this is important. If I had a shape, I could make the stroke straddle the line and be the same on both sides. I can make it be stroke aligned to the inside or align the stroke to the outside. Because this is only a stroke, a line, and not a shape, I cannot make those selections. Okay, now one thing I can make the selection is go to dashed. And notice that it made all these little dimply bubbles across my line. I can change that by changing that, by changing this number in here, okay? So I can increase it or I can decrease it. Now, the smaller the number, the closer together this became. So notice that a minute ago it was 12 and I had space, and now it's 8 and I don't have space. Okay. In the gap, that is the dot itself. In the gap, I could make the gap the same size as that. Let's try that and see what we get. Now there's, even though this is 8, this is starting to be farther apart from each other, right? What if I put 8 here? 8 dash and 8 gap. Now that's not really changing. What if I put 20 here? And then we're getting more of this really dotted line. And I didn't end up with a 20, I ended up with an 18. But you kind of get the idea. And then what if I go back and add to this? And what will that look like? So you can really adjust these and get some really different variations there. These are so much farther apart. And then let's see, you know, they're still ovals. They're still not like dots. I could play with this though and make them dots. So this is an example of making a dotted line or making a variation to the line. There's a little thing in here where you can add arrows on one end. Now that's so big because we're up here with this 27 points. But you can also, you could add an arrow to the other side. It could be the same arrow, it could be different arrows. There are many different ones in here. And then there's more things, not just arrows, but there's some other graphics that can be added there. Hands pointing, an asterisk, or even a scissors line. Okay, so there's a lot of fun, silly things that you can do in there. And then this would mean to switch them. If they were different, that would mean to switch them. But it looks like they're not switching. Okay. This, I have not played around a lot with this. I believe that's just affecting the arrow. It's just affecting the arrow. So this one over here, the scale is affecting the left arrow, and this one over here would be affecting the right arrow. Okay. But one thing that I want to make sure, and here's another thing we can make it exceed past the point. Okay, that would be the align portion. One thing I want to show you is uniformity. So let's get off and have no arrowheads on that. Okay, so nothing happening there. And let's actually turn off the dash and let's bring it up a little bit thicker. And let's play with uniformity. So this would make it thicker in the middle, thinner on the edge. This would make it very kind of like an hourglass on its side. This makes it pointy on the ends. This makes it pointy on one end and like a triangle, literally on its side. And then this one's more like a mound. I skipped that one. Okay, and there's just several options within that. Okay, so that's another way to really change your line. Your assignment is to create a design on this document, this sheet of paper, with 30 different lines. So there's a lot to be learned that you can apply in this particular assignment. Now, we've talked about the stroke. We've talked about changing it. Let's go back to uniform, okay? Or the basic uniform, okay? Color. If I double click here, I could pick any color I want. So I'm double clicking on the stroke and I could pick any color I want. I could change it and do anything I want to it. If I want to, let's say I want to duplicate this. I'm going to go to the black arrow, the selection tool, and I'm going to hold down Option, and I'm going to drag, and I get a duplicate, okay? I get a duplicate. So here's another way. And I can also hit Command D, and then it just keeps doing that duplicate. You're going to have to create 30 lines. They're going to need to be different. You're going to need to include 5 variations of line and 5 kinds of line, just like you read about in your textbook. Okay, so let's go back to just our one. I'm going to click and drag, select all of those, and hit delete. Here's our one green line with a rounded corner. Now remember, the black arrow is how you can kind of click and move. You can move it around, or you can hit Option and then drag and create a duplicate, or hit Command D. Okay, lots of good things that you can do there. I'm going to delete these. Okay, and I would like to also show you another tool called the width tool. So we're going to go up here. It looks like this. Okay, if you have a double toolbar, and you can fix that by this. It's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th tool down. The width tool is unique because you can click on any part of your line and you can drag. Okay, so you can drag, and you can drag in and out, and you can really alter the line quite a bit. There's just a lot of freedom in this to really change it and make it whatever you want. And we could take that a step further, you know, and make multiples of these and make them different colors, and they could be all different types of lines. So the width tool is a really cool application on how to create variety, really. Okay, and so this can be, you know, thick, thin, and crazy, and we can do all kinds of fun stuff. So that's the width tool, and it's the 8th tool down on the left. It's a quick key as you hit Shift and W, but we'll talk more about quick keys as time goes on. After you have created 30 unique and interesting lines on this document, and they can be, let's see, they can be overlapping, okay? So, and see, there's with the black arrow, I can turn things. So they can be overlapping, which would create lots of interest. I can also make things longer with the black arrow, and they should go off the edge of the paper, and that's okay, because that's going to create interest as well. So after you have filled this page with 30 unique lines addressing 5 variations, at least 5 variations and 5 kinds of line, at the bottom, I'd like for you to go to the Type tool, click and drag a box about like that, and I'd like you to type your name. So this is the Type tool. This is how we get font on a document. I'm going to highlight that, and then I'm going to go up here to Character, and I'm going to make it bigger. Okay? Make it show up. You can make it whatever color you want. I can click in here. I'll click in here and make it, my favorite color is purple. We'll make it purple, and there you've like signed your work. Okay, so Command 0 to see everything full screen. This is just the tip of the iceberg of what you could do with shapes with this line segment tool. You got to click and drag and release. I will tell you there is also, real quick, let's show you the spiral tool. You can click and drag it as well, and then go back up here. This creates some fun things. You can really affect the uniformity on that. And that can really create some neat visual effects, okay? Again, you could go back in and you could create dashed lines with that. You could, you know, go back to solid, and you've got that uniformity that's making it interesting. Let's try it with this one. So it starts out thin, gets thick, goes back to thin. There's just so many options there. And you could really have some fun with all different kinds of colors. Okay, remember black arrow? You can hold shift and make things bigger, but they'll stay in proportion. Or you can not hold shift and you can distort them. I personally like it in proportion. You can have option and duplicate it. And you could change it and make a different kinds of lines. So think big and think small and think overlap, and it's okay if things go off the edge of the paper. And you can play with the width tool and the colors and the stroke panel and these tools right here, your line and your spiral. Okay, so good luck on your assignment. When you are done, you go to File, Save As, and you've already got, it's already titled because we did that when we started. You need to save it to your desktop, and you need to come down here and go Adobe PDF. So then up here it turns to brown, melanie.pdf to your desktop, and you hit save. Notice, and then you hit save. Notice that it's going to show up right here. There's that document, and then you're going to go to Google Classroom and you're going to turn that in. And when you turn that in, you are going to go to your class, whatever that class may be, and you're going to attach this, and then you're going to submit it and mark it as done. So I hope you have found this to be helpful. You can save all your work on your desktop as time goes on and upload it to Google Classroom. I hope you found this video to be helpful, and good luck on your line design. This is clicking and hitting the space bar to make it bigger, and I look forward to seeing all your unique designs with at least 30 different types of line. Thank you for listening. Bye.